Hello everyone and welcome back. Happy Manga Monday. And if you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. My name is Zoe and this is my channel, Ms. Manga, where I talk a lot about manga. And today, when this video is dropping, it is the last Monday of September. Like, I can't even believe it. This month, yeah. I mean, obviously, like, I'm shooting ahead of time, but still, I wore a spooky Rick and Morty to, like, get into those pre-Halloween vibes. I've already been decorating for Halloween, so I'm so excited. I absolutely love spooky season. I can't wait to share with you my favorite spooky reads and do my Junji Ito tier list, which I have so much more manga to read for that, but I'm not gonna think about that. Anyway, today I'm gonna be talking about the older first volumes that I read back in August. So today I'm gonna be talking and reviewing and saying whether I'm super smashing or super passing or just think it's okay, you know, as I do if you've watched any of these first volume videos. And if you haven't yet, there is a playlist, so go check them out. I love reviewing first volumes because I feel like the spoilers are minimal and you can get like a little taste for if it's up your alley or not, if it's your cup of tea or not. And yeah, just really fun. Just real quick before we start the video, I am going to be dropping a video later on this week. I wanted to feature it as a Manga Monday video, but my schedule, it just works out better to drop it later in the week. So that's going to be a manga review plus also kind of like an Iceland vlog from my trip in Iceland earlier this year. So it's definitely gonna be like different, and I don't know how it's gonna go, but I hope you enjoy. So if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the notifications so that you'll be notified when that video drops, because otherwise you might miss it, and that would be a shame. I really hope you enjoy it, and yeah, without further ado, let's just get into talking about the manga. First up of the first volumes, we have Otherside Picnic. And I honestly don't know how this flew under my radar as long as it did. It is like that perfect blend of like horror, mystery, action, adventure story that I really like in manga. And it currently has 6 volumes out right now. And I just discovered it. So yeah, this is a story that begins when the short brown-haired girl Sorawo, who is a depressed college student and all-around loner, is exploring an abandoned building, which is something she does in her free time, and opens a door that leads not to another room or anything that would be normal. It opens to a vast grassy field as far as the eye can see. And she decides to call this place the Other Side. And she is wary of it at first, but eventually decides to venture in. There she encounters a repulsive yet mesmerizing creature who she is luckily saved from by the appearance of the beautiful Toriko. So Toriko has been adventuring into the other world in search of her missing friend, who is the one who actually introduced her to this place. And once they escape the other side together, she proposes that perhaps they could team up and help each other out and explore the other side together. So Sorawo is a bit apprehensive after the scary, creepy creature that she encountered, but she is undoubtedly smitten by Toriko. And her curiosity and her seeming attraction together makes her decide to team up with Toriko and go back to explore the other side, which is a dangerous and deadly realm full of urban legends. So every creature that they encounter, Toriko kind of is able to like connect it back to an urban legend she's heard about. So it's very much like an Alice in Wonderland vibe mixed with urban legend horror, Japanese horror stories, which I'm loving. I'm loving the combination of the like overall plot, and I'm also loving the undercurrent of a girl-girl romance. I mean, look at these two cuties. Tell me, like, I want this to pay off their relationship. I think they're really cute together. And I, you know, already know Sorawo is kind of interested in Toriko. She's a little jealous of this girl that Toriko cares so much about. She's willing to go back to the other side again and again in search for her. And, you know, I just hope it's not, you know, played off and actually develops into a Yuri. I would really appreciate that, but I don't know. As of now, I've only read the first 2 volumes, but it's a very promising start if you've loved that horror mystery element, action adventure story with that possible Yuri undercurrent. I'm really hoping for it. Hoping for the payoff of that. But yeah, it's a really strong start and I'm definitely smashing. I really loved it and I can't wait to read more. So it's starting off strong. Next up, we have Yakuza Reincarnation. So this is like 2 genre themes, whatever you want to call them, in manga that I tend to enjoy, which is Yakuza and reincarnated stories. So I was a little apprehensive about this one, which is why I hadn't picked it up yet. Actually found it half off at my manga store, so I decided to take a chance on it. And this story begins when Ryu, a old Yakuza boss leader, gets double-crossed and attacked and ends up falling into some water and thinks, that's it, he's drowning, this is the end. Only to suddenly emerge from water and wake up, only he's not in the same world nor the same body anymore. He is in a magical land and inhabiting a princess's body. So yeah, it's a bit of an odd premise. I'm not always a fan of the body switching plot point, so I was a little apprehensive going into it. Ryu is an older man and he's not like what I think of when is like the young guy that gets in the girl's body and is like, anyway, I enjoyed Ryu's kind of you know, no nonsense, beat them all up, protect the weak and powerless, you know, Yakuza boss mentality in this princess's body. And, you know, the attendants around the princess are a bit confused because she doesn't seem to remember anything and her personality is a bit different now. But they kind of chalk it up to like magic from her kidnapping. That is when Ryu took over her body. My questions are, where the heck is the like real princess then? Like, is she in Ryu's body? Did she drown and die? Did Ryu get saved and she's there now? I don't know. Ryu doesn't seem to really question or care about where the actual princess's soul, mind, whatever you want to call it, went. And he's just kind of like unfazed by the whole thing, which I think is the most like weird part of it, is that he just really doesn't care. And he doesn't really seem concerned that he's in a whole magical land in a princess's body. He kind of takes it in stride. So it wasn't like great, you know, made me super excited to read more, but it wasn't bad. I do like Ryu as the princess protagonist. You know, I like badass characters, especially when they're women, but he's not really a woman, so I don't know. But you know, it's not bad. It's just that like I'd say it's just okay. I will probably pick up the 2nd volume because I'm intrigued enough to like get a little bit more of the story and see how I feel overall. So I'm not like for sure passing on it, but I didn't feel enthusiastically like strong about this one. So yeah. Next volume is another volume I got that I picked up half off at my local manga store, and that is Dungeon People. So I had not heard anything about this one either. I just kind of, I don't know, was intrigued. I feel like I've been reading more and more stories with like surrounding dungeons, and I totally blame my friend because he started it all with Delicious in Dungeon, and then I read the latest volume of The Great Cleric before this one, and it's all about him in the dungeon clearing levels, and I'm just like, there was so much like comparison between that one and this one. It was ridiculous. So anyway, this one is kind of a twist on the traditional dungeon take, kind of flipping the idea of dungeons are maybe just job opportunities for monsters, kind of. Yeah, so it's like a background look at like the inner workings of a dungeon, if a dungeon was like actually run like a business. And it all begins when an expert thief, Clay, in search for her missing father, who went into this dungeon never to return again, delves deeper into the dungeon, and she encounters a very strong creature that suddenly starts talking to her like just a normal everyday person would, and kind of gives up that this isn't really what she thinks it is. And there she meets the dungeon master, who offers her a job to work in the dungeon. So now instead of exploring, Clay must learn how to interview new monsters, set traps, and position slimes around the dungeon. Will this new career path bring her any closer to finding her father? And it wasn't really as interesting as I thought it'd be. I like the idea of it, but it is very much like slice of life, like her discovering and exploring aspects of her new job. I'm gonna read the second volume eventually. I don't know that it will really change my mind. As of now, I'm gonna pass on it. It kind of like feels somewhat similar to Delicious in Dungeon in the tone of like there seems to be a darker element, but we really just get this light and weird and surface level things, which, you know, could develop into more and be more interesting, but it just wasn't like grabbing me. Yeah, so like I said, volume 2 could change my mind, but right now I would pass on it because it just did not really give me adventure or good mystery. It just kind of left me hanging, I guess. Okay, and next up we have Daemons of the Shadow Realm. This is one I'd been kind of intrigued with, and it's by the same mangaka as Full Metal Alchemist, which is one of my favorite shonens. So I, you know, kept my eye on it and finally decided to pick it up. The second volume just released, but I haven't gotten around to reading it. So yeah, this is fully just my feelings on the first volume, and I've tried so many times to film just like the summary of the first volume, and it's so dense. There's so much going on, and now I know why the back of the book summary is so bare bones, because yeah, it's hard to like sum it all up. But anyway, I'm gonna try one more time. So we meet our protagonist, Yuru. He's living in a remote mountain village that seems to be, you know, sometime in the distant past. There's no modern conveniences or technology, and the village seems quaint and peaceful, other than one major mystery, which is Yuru's twin sister, Asa, is for some reason locked in a prison cell. We don't know why this is really, and Yuru seems to just accept it. He cares a lot for his sister, who's his only remaining relative in the village. He knows his parents ran away from the village, but he doesn't know why, and he doesn't seem to really question it. So yeah, that's what we get. And then all of that changes when whirling metal birds appear in the sky and soldiers storm the village. So obviously this is taking place in a more modern day and age. It's just the village itself seems to have created a barrier and pretended that they are stuck in the past. It does seem like most of the villagers don't know about the outside world though, so I don't know. It's very confusing, and it only adds to the confusion when Yuru, who is desperate to protect his sister from these, you know, armed soldiers, rushes back to her cell only to find he is too late. But a woman who has seemingly killed her claims to actually be Yuru's twin sister, Asa. So yeah, that's only the beginning like chapter. And then it's not even touching on the supernatural element, which are these daemons. We don't really get too many answers, and so much is going on. Yeah, that's all. I'm gonna just stop there. And yeah, it's a lot. I definitely like smash it. Like I said, I already got the second volume. I had pre-ordered it when I ordered this one. And I'm curious to see how things unfold. I don't mind, you know, like stories that just kind of like throw you in the deep end. They don't really explain anything, and you're kind of just as lost and confused as the protagonist is in this case. And I also like stories that like kind of question morality of characters, like who's the bad guys, who's the good guys. The village was, or at least the like elder of the village was lying to everybody and concealing the truth of a lot of things. So yeah, it's got a lot of layers to it, a lot going on in this first volume. So I don't know exactly how to feel about it, but I'm very intrigued and I'm smashing it because of that mostly. Second to last first volume, we have SINoALICE. 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 I don't know how you say it, but anyway, clearly this is only leaning into the whole Alice in Wonderland trope. Japanese people really, really like Alice in Wonderland. I really like Alice in Wonderland. There's a lot of Alice in Wonderland-esque stories and series I've read from manga that I really enjoy. Number one of which is Alice in Borderland. So yeah. So this first volume is kind of questioning a lot of things. It's also probably going to be just as hard for me to explain as the last volume because, again, a lot of things are going on and not a lot is explained to us in this first volume. The tagline is, on a mundane day, a mundane start to it all, an ordinary everyday life for an ordinary person, me. Everything about Alice is normal, ordinary. They're really emphasizing this. But she has this continuous dream of these creepy marionettes who ask her over and over again what is her desire. And try as she might to ignore these dreams, Alice seems to be drawn into their violent, twisted universe, where Alice is thrust into a dark game of slaughter made for fairy tale heroines who will stop at nothing to bring their creators back to life. So it's funny because the last volume's summary was completely bare bones and gave you almost nothing. This one almost gives you too much, to the point where I'm like, what is happening? Like, I really don't know the fairy tale heroines who will stop at nothing to bring their creators back to life. Like, what does that mean? That is not explained at all in this first volume. But yeah, anyway, it definitely seems to be a dark kind of survival game story, which is why I picked it up, besides it being like an Alice in Wonderland vibe. I really like those things. So yeah, this volume was confusing as hell. Like, the synopsis is confusing. The volume is confusing. The volume begins and sort of begins again. So I was almost ready for it to begin again. But it doesn't. So I don't know. We have one storyline that all seems to be a dream, and then the real story begins, but was the other story actually a dream? It's all very topsy-turvy confusing, and I'm going to tentatively continue the series. I do think I'm intrigued enough to see if volume 2 kind of settles into the narrative and explains something, anything to me. It does seem like Alice at the end of this gets rescued from people that know more of what's going on. So that's what I'm hoping for volume 2, is that we get a little answers. Like, oh my gosh, both of these series back-to-back first volumes are just confusing as all get out. The last volume, it definitely set up the mysteries element better. I was like more just like overwhelmed with all this confusion and mysteries being revealed, where this one I am just more just like, what's going on? What is reality? But I do think that that's kind of the aim they're going for. What is real? What is not real about this story? It's kind of that Alice in Wonderland, you know, what is reality and what is not question. But it's just, I don't know if it's really executed the way that they think that they're, you know, they think they're doing it, but I think they're missing the mark a bit. It's too vague, I think. But that being said, it did make me want to at least see what the second volume does. So it's not altogether pass-worthy, so I guess I'm gonna land on, it was just okay. If you like a bloody, confusing, dark survival game-esque story, maybe you'll check it out. But like, I'm not like super recommending this one because it was just kind of okay. And last, and certainly the heaviest volume that I'll have to hold up here, we have Berserk. So I finally read the first volume of Berserk, and you might notice that I have not read further. I have the second and the third volume because it's all in here, this horribly huge, heavy omnibus, and I've also ordered the second volume. I had a friend tell me, and I also think I'd heard it somewhere else too before, but that I need to read at least the first 6 volumes to really give it a good shot. So I'm gonna do that eventually. But I finally got around to reading the first volume, and yeah, you know, it's a dark fantasy setup. We have our main protagonist here, Guts, who, you know, if you've been in the manga anime sphere, you haven't not heard about Berserk, and at least you know about Guts. So yeah. He is a morally gray character. He's kind of what I would consider chaotic neutral. He doesn't seem to do things to be malicious or evil, but he definitely isn't a good person and just kind of seems to do whatever the hell he wants. So that's why I think of him as kind of chaotic neutral, at least at this point in the story. You know, he just kind of flies by the seat of his pants, doing whatever the heck he wants, getting into fights, getting tortured, saving a Puck, a fairy, but, you know, claiming he didn't save him and berating him and saying he wants nothing to do with him. And yeah, you get the point. Like, Guts isn't really a likable protagonist, at least not to me. I like morally gray characters. I like protagonists that are kind of chaotic neutral, like Deadpool, for instance. But he's a fun chaotic neutral, and Guts is really freaking, like, just the most, like, emotionless, just petulant man-child. I'm sorry, like, I really was turned off by him. Like, I'm sorry if I'm being overly harsh to your favorite series. I know a lot of people love Berserk, and that's also why I'm willing to give it more of a chance. I also really want to see that guy appear because I've seen art of him and he looks really interesting. I don't know anything about him. That being said, the reason, like I said, I haven't continued reading more of it. Not only is this annoyingly difficult to read because it's so big, so I have to, like, lay on my bed and read it, essentially. I just really didn't like Guts. Tell me he gets better, please, because he is just a brute and not a likable one. Like, he's just very, like, kind of depressing and brutish and doesn't seem to care about anything or anyone. I'm sure he has a tragic backstory, I know, but, like, he's just kind of like, bleh. Like, you know, but, you know, let me know in the comments below how wrong I am, how good this series gets. I know there's a huge fan base for it, so go off on me. I would love the engagement. So overall, I'm going with it was just okay. Completely, if you like dark fantasy with brooding musclehead protagonist, check it out if you haven't already, if for some reason you have missed this one. Or just been putting off reading it. You know, it's a classic, it's a beloved series, and I'm assuming for a reason, so I'm going to, like, give it more of a chance. I just, yeah, I wasn't blown away or super in love with the first volume at all, as you can tell. Yeah, and you know, if it gets better in 6 volumes, I will be the first to come back on here and tell you I've changed my mind. I am a Berserk loyalist now. But yeah, give me your opinion below. I'd love to hear it. I'm gonna stir the pot with this one because, yeah, this one, it's okay. Sometimes you just have to go against the grain. So yeah, those were the older first volumes that I read the last month of August, and I'm very curious what you all think of my reviews and my reactions and overall scoring of them down below. You know, don't be shy, it's okay, I can take it, I think. But I'm very curious, especially if you've read on with SINoALICE or Berserk, you know, yeah, your feelings on them, because those are kind of the two that I'm most like, they could get better, but also, maybe they're just not for me, you know? And that's okay. You know, not every manga is gonna be for everybody. But I do love dark fantasy, and both of these were dark fantasy with lots of blood and gore and craziness going on, and they could be my cup of tea. I don't know. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, these volumes were probably the hardest to review. Almost all of them had so much going on. I didn't read like a single first volume romance that was older, so it was just all complicated storylines and plots and craziness, and so there was a lot. So I'm sorry, I tried to make it as concise and quick in my reviews as I could. I tried, believe me. This was a mess behind the scenes, but anyway, that'll do it for this one. And please hit that little thumbs up button if you liked the video. And until next time, bye!